Ladies and gentlemen, imagine for a moment standing at the edge of a decision so powerful, so quietly devastating that it shakes the very foundations of someone's soul without them even understanding why. What if I told you that one deliberate act done with pure intention could reach deeper into a man's heart than years of words and explanations ever could? We often believe it's strength, anger, or drama that commands emotion, but what if it's something far quieter, almost invisible, that causes the strongest to crumble in the darkness of their own room, replaying your memory over and over like a song they can't turn off? Maybe you think it's too simple, or maybe you think it's too late. Either way, let me ask you this. When was the last time you made someone cry, not because you hurt them, but because you reminded them of everything they thought they lost in themselves? Stay with me, because in the next few moments I'll hand you something few ever discover, and once you understand it, you'll never unsee its effect. There is a moment in every relationship where tensions rise, mistakes are made, and distance feels inevitable. Most people expect confrontation in those moments, an explosion of anger, a withdrawal of affection, a punishment for the hurt they've caused. It's almost a dance written into our instincts: hurt and be hurt in return. But imagine what happens when you disrupt that expectation, when you offer something so rare and disarming that it leaves the other person standing in stunned silence. Silent, unwavering loyalty in the face of disappointment is not weakness, it is an act of profound strength. It speaks to something ancient in us, something that longs to be loved not for our perfections, but for our flaws, for the parts we are most ashamed of. When he expects your fury and instead finds you still by his side, steady and unshaken, it taps into a fear deeper than anything anger could evoke. Anger is predictable. It's familiar. We know how to armor against it. But loyalty, unexpected and undeserved, strips a person of their defenses. It forces them to face the weight of their actions without the easy excuse of blaming your reaction. Suddenly, he's left alone with the raw mirror of himself and the realization that you are standing with him, not because you are blind to his faults, but because you have seen them clearly and chosen to stay anyway. That realization doesn't just touch him, it wrecks him. It's a kind of mercy few are prepared to receive, and fewer still know how to accept without breaking. Silent loyalty isn't about suppressing your feelings or pretending you weren't hurt. It's about allowing your presence to speak louder than any words could. There's a depth in your quiet that no shouting match can reach. Your stillness becomes a kind of roar that echoes in his mind long after the moment passes. It challenges him not through force, but through reflection, making him question who he is, what he's done, and why someone as powerful as you would choose to love him still. In that silence, there is a question hanging in the air, heavy and unavoidable. Am I worthy of this? Many fear that loyalty in the face of betrayal makes them weak or foolish, but real loyalty is never blind. It sees everything with piercing clarity. It is a choice, not a default. It says, I am strong enough to see you at your worst and not abandon you, but I am also strong enough to know my worth if you continue to take me for granted. That kind of loyalty has boundaries, but they are boundaries built from self-respect, not revenge. It doesn't scream or slam doors. It simply stands firm, radiating a love so profound it demands either transformation or loss. There's a reason this kind of moment causes a man to cry without knowing exactly why. It connects to the part of him that remembers every time he felt unloved, every time he failed and was met with rejection, every time he believed that no one would stay if they really knew him. And here you are, proving that belief wrong in a way so undeniable that it cracks the shell around his heart. The tears come not from sadness alone, but from a tidal wave of gratitude, shame, hope, and fear crashing all at once, drowning him in the depth of what he's been given and what he almost lost. Choosing silent loyalty at the very moment it would be easiest to walk away does not guarantee that he will change. It does not erase the hurt. It does not promise a future free of mistakes, but it creates a sacred space where real transformation is possible if he has the courage to rise to meet it. It offers a glimpse of unconditional acceptance, the kind we all secretly crave but rarely believe we deserve. In that glimpse, something shifts. Even if he can't articulate it, even if he doesn't fully understand it, he feels it in his bones. And it haunts him beautifully and painfully for a long, long time. There comes a point in every relationship where disappointment feels like a heavy curtain falling between two souls. It's the moment when he has hurt you in ways he might not even fully grasp, when he stands there expecting retaliation, coldness, or a wall to rise between you. And yet, it is precisely at this moment, the moment when he least deserves it, that offering sincere, wordless forgiveness becomes one of the most powerful things you could ever do. Not because he earned it, not because the wound isn't deep, but because true forgiveness is never about deserving. It's about freeing yourself and opening a door he didn't even believe could exist. Wordless forgiveness is a kind of language that speaks louder than anything you could say. It's a look, a softening of the eyes, a subtle loosening of your posture. It's choosing not to fling accusations or demands, but instead allowing the space between you to breathe, to tremble, and to heal. In that silent forgiveness, you aren't pretending nothing happened. You're not making excuses or burying your pain. You are acknowledging it, owning it, and still deciding not to let it harden you. That decision, when given without theatrics or a scorecard, has a way of reaching into the hidden places inside a man's heart where guilt and shame live, pulling them to the surface like a tide he can't resist. Forgiveness given when it is least deserved carries a weight no apology could ever match. Because when someone hurts you, especially deeply, they often brace for the backlash. They expect the punishment, the cutting words, the withdrawal of love that they think they have earned. They are ready for that because it's what they've likely experienced before, what they know to prepare for. But when you meet their failure with undeserved grace, it disarms them completely. It interrupts the narrative they've been telling themselves that love is conditional, that their mistakes make them unworthy, that vulnerability is a weakness that leads only to abandonment. The absence of blame becomes a mirror, and in that reflection he sees the truth of his actions more clearly than any lecture could reveal. The human instinct is to defend oneself when attacked, to justify wrongdoings with reasons and excuses. But when you offer forgiveness without needing to be asked, without needing to be begged or pleaded with, you remove the battlefield entirely. There's nothing for him to fight against, no enemy to wrestle with. There's only himself, his conscience, and the undeniable, humbling fact that someone chose to love him even at his lowest. This kind of forgiveness doesn't diminish your worth, it amplifies it. It says, I am strong enough to recognize your weakness and not be consumed by it. It draws a sharp contrast between what is petty and what is profound. It's not a surrender of your standards or boundaries, it's a surrender of your need to make someone pay for their mistakes, trusting instead that the weight of your mercy will do what punishment never could. True forgiveness teaches more than anger ever will because it plants a seed of transformation, not through fear, but through hope. You don't need to say a single word for forgiveness to be understood. A soft touch on the arm, an unexpected smile, a lingering glance that says, I see the worst of you and I choose to stay, communicates more than any grand speech ever could. And in the silence following that moment, something extraordinary happens. He begins to feel the magnitude of what he's been given. He may not cry immediately. He may not even know why he feels the ache rising in his chest, the sting behind his eyes. But deep down, a part of him will break open, and it will never fully close again. Forgiving someone when they least deserve it is not a strategy to manipulate or control them. It's a radical act of self-possession. It's the choice to lead with love when everything in you screams for justice. It's the courage to hold your head high and say, I am bigger than the pain you caused me. That kind of forgiveness doesn't erase the hurt, but it reclaims the power from it. It doesn't excuse the wrong, but transforms the space it occupied. And though he may never be able to fully articulate it, he will carry the memory of that moment for the rest of his life, a moment where he was loved without condition when he least believed he deserved it. There is a side of every man that he keeps buried so deeply he almost forgets it's there. A part shaped by quiet fears, old wounds, unmet hopes, and the silent battles he fights when no one is watching. He may wear strength like armor, confidence like a shield, humor like a mask, but underneath all of it lives a truth he is often too scared to even admit to himself. To see and acknowledge that hidden part without judgment is one of the rarest gifts you can ever offer him. It is not about fixing him or exposing his weakness, it's about making space for him to be fully seen without the risk of being dismantled. Most people only engage with what he presents to the world, the polished version, the curated strength, the rehearsed smiles. Very few ever look beyond the surface to notice the moments when his eyes betray the stories he doesn't tell, the hesitation that flashes across his face when a sensitive subject brushes too close, or the way his voice softens almost imperceptibly when he speaks of something that once mattered but now feels lost. Seeing him means paying attention when everyone else is distracted by the noise. It means understanding that his anger might sometimes be a shield for his sadness, that his silence might be a fortress built to protect the most vulnerable pieces of him from being shattered again. When you acknowledge those hidden parts without forcing them into the light, without demanding explanations or declarations, you offer him something he cannot find elsewhere. You show him that he is not invisible. That even in the places he hides, he is still worthy of being loved. It's not about calling him out or making him uncomfortable. It's about offering a silent recognition that says, I see you, the real you, and you are safe here. That kind of acknowledgement is so rare that it almost feels like a betrayal to everything he has learned about how the world works. It catches him off guard, dismantles his defenses, and invites him into a level of intimacy he might have never believed possible. The truth is, many men have been taught from a young age to lock away their most tender parts, to toughen up, to push through, to never reveal anything that could be perceived as weakness. Over time, they don't just hide those parts from others, they hide them from themselves. They forget the dreams they once had, the fears that once kept them awake, the moments of pure vulnerability that once made them feel truly alive. To be seen there in that forgotten, forbidden place is terrifying and healing at once. It triggers fear because exposure feels dangerous, but it also brings relief because deep down he was aching to be known beyond the surface. You will know you have touched that hidden place not by grand confessions or dramatic breakdowns, but by the small, almost imperceptible shifts. A deeper level of trust in his gaze, a softness in his posture around you that he doesn't offer to anyone else. Moments where his laughter sounds different, freer, more genuine, as if a heavy weight has been momentarily lifted. Seeing him like this is not about holding power over him. It is about setting both of you free from the exhausting game of pretense and performance. It is about building something rooted in truth rather than appearances. There's an almost sacred responsibility that comes with seeing someone in this way. You must guard it, respect it, and never use it as a weapon. The part of him he hides is fragile not because he is weak, but because it was forged in moments of profound loneliness and hurt. Mishandling it would confirm his worst fears, while honoring it could reshape how he sees himself forever. It could give him permission to heal wounds he stopped believing were even allowed to heal. It could inspire him to reach for parts of himself he had long since buried under layers of survival. When he realizes you see that part of him, the scared boy, the forgotten artist, the quiet dreamer, the weary protector, and that you love him not despite it, but because of it, something irreversible happens. Trust blooms where fear once lived. Hope stirs in the ashes of resignation. It isn't loud or dramatic. It's a slow, steady unfolding, like a flower daring to open after a long, bitter winter. And he may not have the words to explain it. He may not even consciously recognize it at first, but he will feel it deep in the marrow of who he is, and he will never forget who it was that gave him back to himself without ever asking for anything in return. There is a particular kind of strength that is revealed not in shouting matches or slammed doors, but in the quiet, deliberate decision to walk away with your dignity intact when someone no longer values what you offer. It is tempting, almost instinctive, to respond to being taken for granted with rage, to demand recognition, to lash out, to make them feel the hurt they have caused. But true power lies in choosing a different path, in preserving your own worth without giving them the satisfaction of watching you unravel. When a man grows used to your loyalty, your forgiveness, your presence, and forgets the miracle it is to be truly loved, the most profound statement you can make is to leave without bitterness, without theatrics, without a single tear shed in front of him. Leaving with dignity doesn't mean you are indifferent. It means you are wise enough to know that your energy is too precious to be spent begging for appreciation. It means understanding that real love, the kind that sees, honors, and cherishes, does not have to be fought for at the level of survival. It is either recognized and nurtured, or it is squandered and lost. When you sense that he has started to assume you will always be there, that he treats your time, your heart, and your presence as something guaranteed rather than gifted, your silence becomes louder than any accusation could ever be. The absence of your effort, your laughter, your attention will echo in the empty spaces he once took for granted. There is something almost haunting about a woman who leaves quietly. It unsettles him more than anger ever could. Anger can be dismissed, written off as overreaction or dramatics. But dignity leaves no room for denial. It stands as an undeniable mirror to his failure, forcing him to confront the loss without the distraction of a fight. He will replay the last moments in his mind, searching for the explosion he expected, the words he thought he would hear, the chaos he was ready to argue against, and finding only a calm, final silence. That is what will keep him awake at night, not your fury, but your absence. Walking away with dignity means you honor everything you brought into the relationship, even when he no longer does. You recognize your own value without needing his validation. You understand that staying and fighting for scraps of affection is not bravery. Sometimes the bravest thing is knowing when to stop watering a dead plant. It is not an act of cruelty to leave someone who refuses to see you. It is an act of self-respect, a refusal to betray yourself for the sake of someone else's comfort. It is a silent declaration, I deserve more, and I will not diminish myself to remind you of it. The beauty of leaving without rage is that it keeps your story clean. There are no regrets about words said in anger, no guilt over scenes made or bridges burned unnecessarily. You leave knowing that you gave your best, that you loved without conditions for as long as it was healthy to do so, and that you chose yourself when staying meant losing pieces of your own soul. That kind of clean break doesn't just free you from him, it frees you to heal, to grow, to rediscover the parts of you that might have been dulled in the effort to make him see your worth. Men often only realize the magnitude of what they had when it's already gone, and it's the dignity with which you leave that drives the lesson home. Not to punish him, but because the contrast between the chaos he expects and the grace you give cuts deeper than any words ever could. He will remember your silence. He will feel the weight of your absence in the small moments, the morning coffee without your laughter, the evening drives without your hand to reach for, the victories without your voice to celebrate them. These are the moments that will teach him if he chooses to learn. Choosing to walk away without rage requires a profound kind of courage because it asks you to carry your hurt without letting it poison your spirit. It asks you to trust that you are enough, even when someone else failed to recognize it. It demands that you believe in the future you cannot yet see, the one where you are loved with the fullness and reverence you deserve. And so you rise not because you were unbroken, but because you refuse to stay broken for someone who stopped seeing your light. You step forward with your head held high, your heart still intact, and your soul whispering the truth you always knew: you were never meant to beg to be cherished.